Shalom. I hope everyone is well. This video is to share with you my personal High Holy Day experiences from the past and what's been most special to me. As I look back over my life, my favorite High Holiday experiences took place in my family shul where I grew up. It was a conservative congregation in St. Paul, Minnesota, a very liberal conservative congregation. But every high holidays, every Rosh Hashanah morning, every Yom Kippur morning, my grandfather, good old grandpa, would always pick me up at my house about 8:15 or so, and we were there at 8:30 when the service began. And there was only a handful of congregants in the sanctuary at that time at 8:30 in the morning. Given it was a conservative service, they ran about 4 hours, 4.5 hours. So, but I always loved being with my grandpa and being there at the services. I was the only one of the kids in my family, my brother, my sister, and all my cousins actually, that wanted to go to services with grandpa first thing in the morning on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur at 8:15, 8:30 in the morning. And because we got there so early at the very beginning of the service, we had seats down in the main sanctuary, usually like in my grandpa had special seats. And all of us, believe it or not, I think all of us have special seats. Even all my years in doing high holiday services here at CBI, when I look out, I know where people are going to sit. In Judaism, we call that a makom kavua. We all have a fixed place, a makom kavua, a fixed place where we like to sit when we worship. It's a comfort level. So my grandfather always had his makom kavua. It was always in the fourth row in the main sanctuary on the right, the aisle seat and the seat next to him. The two of us would sit. And my family would show up 9:30, 10 o'clock. By the time the morning Shacharit service was over and the Torah service was about to begin, or it was in process, they would show up. And of course, they'd walk down to make sure me and Grandpa were sitting in our seats, thinking maybe we saved seats. But saving seats wasn't allowed. So they ended up sitting back in the social hall in the card chairs, in the extra seats that were added to the social hall, so they weren't in the main sanctuary. For me, that was always my most favorite, my special memory of the high holidays. I love the service, and because I belong to a liberal conservative congregation, we actually had a congregational choir that was quite professional. They were excellent, and we had an organ. And for me, the highlight was always listening to Sim Shalom. In this big masterful organ piece, and this choir of men and women along with the cantor singing this big gorgeous Sim Shalom. And as I share this video with you and I record this right now, I've got goosebumps, and it gave me goosebumps to sit there and listen to that. That for me was always a favorite part of my high holiday services. But in addition to the services, the thing that I loved most about the high holidays was always having Erev Rosh Hashanah dinner at Grandma and Grandpa's house. Grandma cooking with all my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, all of us. And likewise breakfast at Grandma and Grandpa's house. And breakfast was always after Grandpa and I, because we were the holdouts. We would stay all day long on Yom Kippur, and we were there from the very beginning of Yom Kippur all day long through the final shofar sounding, 7 o'clock p.m., 7:30 p.m. And then by the time we got to Grandma and Grandpa's house, Grandma was ready to set out the food, and everybody else was there, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, my parents, my siblings, everyone anxiously waiting for Grandpa and me to show up so we could finally eat. So that was also a favorite memory. For me, as a rabbi, my favorite high holiday experience was my first high holiday experience at CBI, actually. When I first came to work at CBI 27 years ago, the years prior, the 2 years prior to my ordination, and then my ordination, especially the year after I was ordained as a rabbi, that for me was the most memorable service. Rabbi Agler gave me some wonderful parts of the service to do. I had to write my first sermon, and that was daunting. It was exciting and anxious and filled with trepidation and concern. And I remember spending an inordinately large amount of time in preparing that sermon for the High Holy Days. So for me, that was probably my most memorable experience, as many years at CBI. When we had the separate services, when we had the satellite services, Cantor Sarah remembers, she and I would go over to the high school or Pinecrest, where they were for a number of years. And I recall doing those services, and those were very special to me because that was my style. I got to bring my style and my orientation and my interest to that service. Didn't have to worry about another rabbi or other cantors or anything like that. I got to pretty much plan the service and infuse it with the elements that were so meaningful to me. In fact, just as I grew up in my conservative congregation, which was very liberal, and I had the opportunity to hear the choir and the organ, for me, one of my most memorable services when I was at the high school doing the satellite services for CBI was that I brought in a video of an interview with God, which, again, I'm getting goosebumps again. That was part of my High Holy Day sermon. That was part of my Rosh Hashanah sermon. And I brought in that video, and it's a beautiful, majestic video. I don't know if you can still find it online or not. It was called The Interview with God. And it's beautiful music and visuals with beautiful message all rolled into this beautiful video. And I used that as the crux of my High Holiday sermon that year, my Rosh Hashanah sermon. That was very special to me. But I have to say, this year will be another memorable service, as was, I remember the year of 9/11. Most every rabbi, me included, had their High Holiday sermon already planned, already written up. And as soon as 9/11 happened, I ripped up the sermon and I wrote the longest sermon I have ever written. To this day, I remember it was 22 pages long. So mind you, I know people think I talked for a long time, but I really spoke a long time at that service. And that was at, again, one of those satellite services at the Boca Raton High School. And that sermon, I probably spoke for probably 20, 25 minutes right after 9/11. So that, again, was a memorable part. But all my years at CBI in planning, preparing, and leading services, the best memory is looking out and seeing the faces of people that I've known for so long and see them respond mostly positively to my message and the services that we work to craft and create with the rest of the clergy. So I will look forward to this year, which will be something a little bit different, and I'm sure will reside in my memory for many, many years to come. That this High Holy Days will indeed be different than any other High Holy Days we've ever experienced. We'll be doing it in the sanctuary without congregants. So the rabbis, cantors, inside that sanctuary, alone, without the crowd, without all of you present, I indeed expect to be filled with, I'm not sure what to expect. There'll be a disappointment. I know, not having people there, not being able to connect personally with the congregation out in the sanctuary. But this will be different, and perhaps after the service, I'll be able to explore my feelings after having shared them. So I wish you all a Shana Tova, a good year, a healthy year, a sweet year.
Hello, Keller's here. Shana Tova. We are in our Chag, our holiday whites. We're excited to share with you some high holiday memories. So we're going to start with Lior over here. Go ahead.
I have a memory from first grade when I was singing Rosh Hashanah song with my best friends, Yoni and Sloan.
That's nice.
That's very nice. Thank you.
I have a memory from last year where I ran the bingo competition during the Yom Kippur Jewish congregation.
Fun.
It's nice too.
My memory was my dad served as the lay cantor of my synagogue growing up, and we always had to sit in the front row during services, and my brother and I hated it, especially during the high holidays. We always had to sit in the front row because my dad wanted to see our faces, and we told my parents we would never sit in the front row when we became grown-ups. But now, my brother's a rabbi, and he's married to a rabbi, and I'm married to a rabbi, so it is front row for me and my family forever.
Yep, sorry. My favorite memory, if we elongate the whole high holiday sort of month of Tishrei, the month that encompasses all of the holidays, if we go to Simchat Torah, that's my favorite. By the way, it's my favorite holiday of the entire year, Simchat Torah. But also, when I was growing up at a synagogue here in Florida, actually Temple Beth Israel, we at the end of Simchat Torah, all the kids got to go into the back in the religious school, and they got candy apples. And I dreamt of candy apples, and just to finish the high holidays, and that's my favorite high holiday memory. Hope that you have a sweet one as well, a sweet high holiday memory. And from our family to your family, Shana Tova, Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Hey CBI, it's Rabbi Cohen here, and I'm with my mom. Hi, I'm Eve. And we wanted to share with you some of our favorite High Holy Day memories. So my first one was from my year in Israel. We spent our first year of rabbinical school in Israel. And usually when you're in the States and you're praying for the High Holy Days, you face Israel. So, but for our High Holy Days that first year, we were in Israel. So where do you face? You face Jerusalem. But we were in Jerusalem, so where do you face? You face towards the old city. And it was amazing. We had High Holy Days overlooking the old city. And it was the first time that it just felt so different to me that I was able to connect in a new way to not only the homeland, but to my Jewish people in such a different way. And this word Israel that we read about in our prayer book was right there. I was there. I'll just never forget what that felt like.
I can imagine. Just imagine. Wow.
How about for you?
Let's see. Most of my memories are kind of funny. It's about soup. The chicken soup. Chicken soup was passed down from my bubby to my mom, to me, and to you. And so one year I was having company, as I usually do, but I was nervous about them. So as I've been getting older, I have to watch out with my salt intake. So instead of adding salt, I decided to add pepper. The soup's fully made, and I tasted, and it really needed something. So I go to add the pepper, and everything's cooked, and the guests are coming, and the top of the pepper opened up, and it was all over the whole pot of soup.
Oh my God.
Do you remember this? So I panicked, and I kept scooping off the top of the pepper, the top of the soup, one after another, and there was like no end to this. So finally I had to empty part of this, because the guests were coming, empty part of the pot out, and then put some water in there, cook it up again, and pray that nobody would notice anything.
Oh my God.
That's enough.
But it didn't work.
No more pepper for me.
No more pepper.
Okay, your turn.
Okay, one other story is from the first year that I was a rabbinical student and had to, so it was my second year, I guess, but my first year leading High Holy Days, and it was in Texarkana, Texas, and I had practiced sounding the shofar for so many times, and it was just praying that I would be able to sound it actually at the end of the whole High Holy Days. So it's Yom Kippur, and the end of the service, I finished leading all of the prayers, giving all of the sermons,
By yourself.
chanting, singing, everything by myself that was done. But the only thing that stood between me and everyone else who were hungry was hearing the shofar. So here I am, I'm like, oh my God, please let me not ruin High Holy Days with a horrible ending of the shofar. So I go and I start to get ready, because you know there's a technique and some skill to it. And the first thing that came out was just this little toot, and I was like, I'm just warming up. It was just practice. So I pause for a moment, take another breath, and out from my shofar comes this beautiful tekiah sound. I have no idea how it happened. I swear it was probably God sounding the shofar through me. Thank you, God. And the sound came out. Everyone was in amazement. I was amazed. I couldn't even believe it myself. But I sounded the shofar, and it all worked out.
Thank God. That's right.
How about for you?
Okay. My next story, surprisingly, is about
Soup. Oh man.
So 1 year, your brother was bringing a young lady with him to Rosh Hashanah dinner. And here I am scurrying around, and we had other people coming as well. And my son said, "Ma, I really don't like your soup. I really don't like your soup." So this year, I decided I'm not making the soup. I went out and I bought about 10 bottles of Manischewitz chicken soup with the matzo balls. So I took the matzo balls out, I made my carrots, I threw it in, and I cooked it up. And then, do you remember, then I asked Allie to come help me. We had to get rid of the evidence.
We hid the evidence.
Just putting in the garbage was not, because it was
All of the
so
canned
many
bottles of the soup.
so many bottles. So that was an effort. And then my son liked it. So that night my son liked it. And he didn't want to taste it, but he did. But anyway, next, if you come to my house for any of the holidays,
Don't eat the soup!
I'm going to make it from scratch like I usually do. That was just that 1 year.
Oh my goodness. Well, as much fun as it is thinking about all of these special memories that we've created for the High Holy Days, we hope that all of you will join us as we create new High Holy Day memories together this year in our homes. It'll be different, but we still have an opportunity to make it really special and something different than all the years before. So we want to wish you a Shana Tova.
I know I've only been here for 2 years, going on my third. So when I think about the most memorable high holiday moment that I've experienced here at CBI, it would have to be the very first high holiday service that I officiated along with the rest of the clergy. But not just that service in and of itself, but rather the moment I brought up Alexa to sing with me the Baruch Hashanah, a very poignant, significant prayer within the High Holiday service, a prayer that asks God, as gets us to contemplate who will live, who will die. And the innocence that comes from the child's voice gives me chills even just thinking about it, whether it was Alexa or some other child even. But knowing that Alexa came up there with me and then looking out at the congregation and seeing eyes well up with tears as if it was the first time they've ever heard this prayer, which I know is not the case, but knowing just how impactful that prayer became because of a child's voice. And when I think about opportunities and moments like that, it really brings me back to understanding and recharges my own soul as to why I became a cantor in the first place. It's for moments like that. So I would say that's my most memorable high holiday moment at CBI to date, but I'm sure there'll be many, many more. Stay safe, everyone.
Hi everyone, we're talking about favorite memories from High Holidays. I have to say, I have a lot of memories over the years here at Congregation of B'nai Israel, but my very favorite is having my own family in the congregation. And every year, my entire family stays for the children's services, and to see my own kids and all of their friends and my friends and my whole family in the congregation is really the highlight. Of course, I love kids' music, so that doesn't hurt as well. And I love seeing all the fun songs with the kids and seeing them jump around and clap their hands and the big smiles on their face. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with all of you. Even though it is virtual this year, we are still having lots of family options. And I hope that you're all able to be with us this High Holidays virtually, but also spiritually. Shana Tova.